I spend a lot of time these days reading books, newspapers, magazines, and surfing the web. The web has opened up a whole world to me. There's so much knowledge there. But there's one thing on the web that I make sure not to read, and that's people's comments. Who are these people? What do they know? And someone once put it well, when online discussion groups became mass media items, every rage-addicted mook on the planet came galloping in to rant and rave about the chip on his or her shoulder under any discussion topic that even remotely had something to do with it or had nothing to do with it. Yes, everyone out there has an opinion. And to them, it's not an opinion. It's a fact. They are right. Others are wrong, or even worse, the enemy. How can people be so sure of themselves? How knowledgeable are they on every subject under the sun? And there's one thing you hardly ever find amongst people's comments. They give all the answers, but they never ask any questions. This is the season when we Jews ask questions. 4, to be exact. Where did this idea of the 4 questions at the Pesach Seder come from? It's found in the Mishnah in the tractate of Psachim, where we're told they poured the second cup of wine, and here the child asks his father. But if the child lacks the knowledge, the father teaches him, Manish Tana Halayla Hazeh. So at first we're told that after the second cup of wine is poured, the child asks a question. But if the child doesn't have the experience or background or perceptiveness to ask a question, then the father teaches him Manishtana. So it matters not who asks the question, as long as the questions are asked. In fact, in the Gemara, we're told a story of little Abaya who was about to begin the Pesach Seder when the servants removed the Seder plate, and shocked by the servants' actions, little Abaya asked his teacher, Rabbah, why did they take away the plate? We haven't eaten yet. To which his teacher responded, by your question, you have exempted us from reciting the Manishtana. So the bottom line is, the Mishnah's concern is not who asks the question and not what is the question. The Mishnah's concern is that a question be asked, because without a question, the story can't be told. We Jews have become identified with asking questions. The old joke, you ask a Jew, how come you Jews ask so many questions? And he answers, why not? But questions are important for several reasons. It's certainly appropriate for the Seder night because questioning is a sign of freedom if we're permitted to make sense out of our surroundings. If we're permitted to question, challenge, investigate, probe, if we're permitted to ask, inquire, and search, then we know we're free. But it's more than that. Tom Peters once said, in the brain-based economy, victory goes to the perpetually curious. Judaism's a brain-based economy. We aren't the people of the book for nothing. Some of the most important pieces of Jewish literature are the responsa, questions and answers on issues of Jewish law and doctrine. Only by asking questions do we learn. The Nobel physicist Isaac Rabin was asked to what he attributes his success in the field of science. And he responded, whenever I returned home from school as a child, my mother never asked me, Ike, what did you learn today? She always asked, Ike, did you ask a good question? Questions remind us that we're human, that only God knows it all. We're frail and fallible and often make mistakes, even about things we're certain we know about. This Shabbos is Parshat HaChodesh, the day on which we're reminded of the first commandment given to the collective Jewish people. HaChodesh hazeh lachem rosh chadashim. This month shall be for you the beginning of months. It was here that God was telling Moshe that the Jewish people were to follow the lunar calendar, and all their holidays and holy days were to be based on the cycle of the moon. And according to the Medrash, you know what Moshe said to God? I don't understand. I don't understand the law. I don't know how it works. And according to the Midrash, there are 4 places in the Torah where God gave a commandment to Moshe, and Moshe didn't understand the lunar cycle, how to make the oil of anointing, how to engrave the candlesticks, and which reptiles were unclean. Moshe didn't know it all. Moshe asked questions, and we must learn to do the same. A theology student once asked Martin Luther, what did God do before he created the world? And his answer was, God was making hell for those who are inquisitive. That's not the perspective of Judaism. The Jewish perspective is found in the words of the Talmud, which tells us that 30 days before the festival of Pesach, Shoel B'Darshan, it's time to start learning and ask questions about the holiday. To ask is to learn. To ask is to be free. To ask is to be reminded of our humanity. To ask reminds us that only God has all the answers, not those who write comments on the internet. Shabbat Shalom.